Yatte, Shie, Cinnamon, Inishe. Hello, my name is Cinnamon. I use she, her pronouns. Some of you might not write meh words. Some of you might recognize me from this month's CIB trick of the month. I was so honored to be able to pick it for Native American Heritage Month. Just to give you a little bit of more about me, I run the skate page Indigenous Skate Alliance. I also run a local skate crew out of Tampa Bay area in Florida called the Gay Commie Skate Crew. We are a queer leftist skate crew. We take our beliefs of mutual aid and community from the skate park to the streets. I just want to take a minute to thank CIB, Hal, and Trample for giving us this platform to be able to talk about what it is to be an Indigenous skater. I'm really glad and honored to be here with these people. And
Buenas tardes. Ella se llama Cinnamon. Ella usa los pronouns ella y ella es gerente de un skate crew en Tampa que se llama el Gay Commie Skate Group. Ella es indígena, es activista y está muy agradecida de venir a hablar en esta plataforma hoy.
We all are from different tribes and different people groups. We all have different teachings and beliefs, and it's going to be really great to get insight from these people about what it is to be an Indigenous skater and what it means to them.
Todas las
It
personas
means
en el panel hoy son de distintas tribus, distintas culturas, religiones, y ella dice que está muy agradecida y estamos muy felices de venir aquí hoy y poder hablar y explicar qué significa el patinaje para nosotros.
So what I hope we get out of today, and why I hope everyone gets out of today, is just a little bit more understanding of Native cultures, our belief systems, and how they can differentiate from non-Native people and their belief systems and their cultures. Also, what it is to be a good ally to Indigenous people and other people of color.
Lo que ella desea que todos tomen de este panel hoy es aprender de las distintas creencias espirituales que tienen la gente indígena, que puede ser distinto de otra gente que no son indígenas, prácticas que tenemos y cómo otras personas pueden ser ayudantes para la comunidad indígena.
So yeah, just to give you a little bit about me, I'm a Dene, which is Navajo and Mescalero Apache. I'm also Mexican as well, so I have a very vast under the umbrella term of Indigenous for myself. Right now, I skate on Tocobaga and Seminole Land here in Florida. So I think we'll just go around and introduce each other. So, Donovan, you want to go next?
Sure. Aloha, I'm Donovan. I also go by my Hawaiian name Ka'imi. I'm from the island of Oahualua, Hawaii. I started roller skating about a year ago. I'm self-taught. I didn't have any other roller skating background. I'm currently an admin for Boob 808. We have members across the islands and we host meetups and events, and we just want to build a sense of community with other skaters. I'm so excited to share this space with these amazing skaters and to share about my culture. I hope to bring more awareness to some issues we as modern Hawaiians face and touch upon some of my experiences as a skater.
Ella es de Oahu, Hawaii. Ella empezó a patinar hace un año. Ella aprendió ya por ella misma. Ella es gente de un grupo que también tienen diferentes facciones en Hawaii y su deseo de ella es enseñar y poder enseñar más a gente de la belleza que es patinaje y la belleza de su cultura.
Angie, do you want to go ahead and go next?
Sure. Hi, my name's Angelina. I'm a member of the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. I use feminine pronouns, and I currently live on the Winnebago Reservation in Northeast Nebraska. And
Ella se
these are
llama
on the
Angie.
ancestral
Ella es
lands.
parte
Sorry,
de. Sorry. Ella es Angie. Ella es parte de. Could you please repeat your tribe name? I'm sorry.
Winnebago.
Okay. Ella es parte del Winnebago tribu en Nebraska.
Mm-hmm. And our reservation is located on the ancestral lands of the Omaha Nation. Like Cinnamon, I am also Mexican American and I am Native American.
Su tierra natal ella viene de una reservación en, you said, I couldn't hear you, so you said
Omaha.
Omaha?
Yeah.
En una reservación Omaha. Ella es mexicana americana y también india nativa.
All right. So I grew up in Winnebago, and then I moved to the city. I moved to Phoenix when I was about 13, and I've been there for most of my life. I only recently moved back to the reservation this summer to work and stuff.
Ella se crió en Winnebago, pero a los 13 años se mudó a Phoenix y ha estado ahí bastante tiempo de su vida y recién este verano pudo regresar a Winnebago.
All right. So I started skating when I was 11, and I kind of stopped just for reasons we'll talk about later. And I didn't start skating again until I was almost 30. I was 29 years old, and I tried out for the Arizona Derby Dames. So I did that for a couple of seasons. I played flat track for a couple of seasons. When you quit Derby, you don't really quit Derby. So I did a couple of other things. I reffed, I NSO'd, I coached with the various leagues in Phoenix. And while I was doing that, I also started skate park skating because I still just enjoyed skating and I wanted to skate.
Ella empezó a patinar a los 11 años y después paró un poquito, pero a los 30 empezó a patinar de nuevo. Empezó a hacer derby skating, enseñó en ligas, y pudo ser una entrenadora y recién empezó a patinar en los parques de patinaje, los skate parks, como lo dicen.
All right, so while I was doing all of that, I started skating at the skate park in my neighborhood, and I met up with another person that was skating at the skate park because back then there were very few. There was a handful of us that actually went to the skate park. So I met a person, and then this CIB thing came along, and I never heard of it. And she was like, "Hey, we should start one here." So we did, and then we started CIB Arizona in about 2014 or 15. I'm not too sure, but it was a while back.
Entonces ella empezó a patinar en el skate park y en esa época no había mucha gente, solo cuantos, y conoció a una persona más que estaba patinando en quads en un skate park y decidió, ahí entre las dos escucharon lo que es el CIB y decidieron tratar de abrir un capítulo de CIB ahí mismo en Phoenix y empezaron ahí.
Mm-hmm. So we since there was nothing, there was no model, there was not a whole lot of other even roller skating crews to have a community. So we had to approach the skate park, the skateboarding community, and introduce ourselves and try to approach it in a way where we would be welcomed. So it was a lot of hard work. Over the years, our meetups evolved to having raffles and having fun themes, and we eventually started doing a little bit of philanthropy and taking donations and stuff for some of the local nonprofit organizations. We've collected clothes, food, water, various things, and it was really cool. But life goes on, and I had to I had to grow up, and I graduated from college and started a new career. So that was something that I'm working on now.
Entonces, como ella dijo más antes, en esa época no había mucha gente, no había un grupo de patinaje en quads en los parques. Entonces ellos tienen que entrar y introducirse a la comunidad de parques que hacían de skate park, pero poco a poco, y dijo que desde entonces lo que empezó con algo chico empezó a crecer, empezaron a hacer rafles, hacer recausos de comida, de agua, de ropa para la gente, y ahora y después ella tuvo que parar un rato para sacar su bachillerato en la universidad y ahora está empezando de nuevo.
So like I mentioned, I focus a little bit more on my work now, but I do still skate. I try to street skate around in the small town that I live in now, and in like empty parking lots, there's usually kids riding skateboards and other things. So those are my friends now. That's my little skate crew. All the local kids, and I try to teach anybody that wants to learn, but like accessibility to roller skates. Roller skates are expensive, and kids grow out of them pretty fast, so it's kind of hard. It's hard to even like be able to help the kids that want to skate. So that's probably something I'm going to work on, is trying to try to help people get to resources so they can. But I do work a lot. I work in Native communities, and I work with food sovereignty, so that does take up a lot of my time.
Ella trabaja mucho, ella regresó a su reservación y como tiene que trabajar muchas veces no le da mucho tiempo de patinar, pero ella trata, tiene unos lugares chiquitos, pocos, donde ella puede patinar, trata de enseñar a la juventud. Es difícil también enseñarles a patinar porque los patines son caros y crecen los niños muy rápido, pero ella siempre está abierta a tratar de enseñar a la comunidad, es algo que ella quiere hacer más, pero por el momento está trabajando mucho porque ella trabaja en ayudar con comida en la reservación.
And I just wanted to thank everybody for giving us this space, and thank you, Susan, for translating for us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Quiere agradecer a todos por venir aquí y también me agradeció por tratar de traducir por ella. You're welcome.
All right, if you want to just keep going up to Jude there.
Sí, claro. Yes, I'm here. Hola, ¿cómo están todos? Mi nombre es Jessica Howe. Soy descendiente maya de la península de Yucatán. Me identifico como ella, también soy parte de la comunidad LGBT. Soy una de las administradoras de Cancún desde hace 4 años, desde 2017. Nuestro objetivo principal pues es promover el deporte sobre ruedas, roller skate. Tenemos una escuela de patinaje, un proyecto completo de patinaje y en conjunto con la comunidad pues incidimos en espacios públicos para poder tener skate parks, buenas calles para patinar, con una comunidad más grande. Y pues nuestra participación esta noche, y digo nuestra porque la crew de Cancún, CIB Cancún, nos acompaña desde casitas, están conectadas con nosotros, pues queremos darles a conocer nuestro mensaje para seguir motivando a la comunidad a patinar, a seguir en la lucha, que la comunidad latinoamericana, mexicana y maya se siente incluida para seguir ocupando los espacios públicos de manera libre, sin estereotipos y discriminación. Yo creo que, y creemos todas, que de esta manera vamos a crear una comunidad segura para todas, todos y todos los patinadores. Creemos que patinar nos hace libres y nos empodera como comunidad. También agradecer este espacio y a Susan por traducir pues esta noche lo que hoy será el Coffee in Bowls con la Alianza Skate Indígena. Muchas gracias a todos, todas y todes.
Her name is Jessica. She identifies as an Indigenous Mayan. She's part of the CIB Cancun and Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. She started in 2017. The purpose of their organization, of course, is to encourage the sport of skating, to find a way to provide better skate parks, better streets, a bigger community in the city that they're in. The message that they have is pretty much motivate to skate. For them, the message of skating is very liberating. It's empowering. it gives them a voice, and they feel they want to be heard, and this is a safe space in which they could be heard. So they try to motivate that. They try to motivate the youth and the people around each other over there to skate, to find that freedom. Again, like she said, to her, skating it is equivalent to freedom and power, and it's a very empowering sport. So she wants to thank everybody for giving her an opportunity to share that in this space, a safe space, and taking the time to hear them. She's with the community, the CIB in Cancun. They're also watching this, they're part of this, and they're also grateful for allowing her presence to represent them on this platform.
I'm really glad that we could be a part of that too. All right, Shannon, your turn.
Shannon.
I was just about to say, does anybody hear?
Thank you for telling me that. It was bound to happen.
I know we're all being too serious. We have to stop. We have to stop. None of us are like that, and we have to stop. All right,
we support
let's
you.
try this
Oh my
again.
goodness.
We support you. We're here for support.
Dointa, my native name is Ol, which means moon, and my English name is Shannon. Identify as she, her, and I'm Athabascan, Alaska native from Fairbanks, Alaska. And I was born and raised in Alaska, and I currently live in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Shannon es indígena de Alaska. Ella se crió allí. Ahorita está viviendo en... Where are you living now?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Albuquerque. Está viviendo ella en Albuquerque, Nuevo México. Ella se identifica como ella. Y ella es del tribu... And can you repeat your tribe name again?
Yes, Athabascan.
Okay. Ella se identifica de la tribu Athabascan.
Yes, so I'm Koyukon Athabascan, and my family and my ancestors, they come from the interior of Alaska in Caltech and Huslia. They're nomadic people, and then chose the village area where they grew up.
Su familia viene del interior de Alaska. Son gente nomádica que se quedaron en el pueblo ahora donde ellos viven.
I currently live and skate on traditional homeland of multiple Puebloan tribes here in Albuquerque. Some of those tribes are Sandia, Kiowa, Isleta, and Laguna. I learned how to skate at the beginning of 2017 through roller derby. It's Duke City Roller Derby here in Albuquerque. And later that year, I transitioned to park skating.
Ella empezó a patinar, you said 2017?
Yeah.
Okay. Ella empezó a patinar en 2017. Ella ahorita patina sobre tierra indígena que pertenece a muchas tribus, incluyendo los tribus Pueblo, Sandía, varios otros que ella mencionó antes en inglés. Y ella recién empezó a patinar en los parques de patinaje públicos.
And for the last couple of years, I've been an administrator for the Shred New Mexico page, which is the CIB group here. And I've helped with planning meetings, meetups, and just some events that we go to once in a while in Colorado. And then I've just been able to see a lot of growth just in the last 2 years, I would say. And it's definitely been amazing.
Sobre los últimos años, ella ha sido administradora sobre el grupo Shred, que es parte de CIB allá en Albuquerque. Eso le dio a ella la oportunidad de poder viajar y ver en primera vista cómo ha crecido el deporte bastante, los grupos han crecido bastante y dice que es muy excelente, qué grande se ha crecido sobre este tiempo y cómo continúa de crecer.
One of the things that I really hope people get out of just roller skating in general in the Native community is finding another community that provides a lot of support just outside of skating as well. They've just really become family. And so that's been my connection to it because I was really depressed for a lot of years, and my friend invited me to go to roller derby, and I just jumped in and said yes. And it's definitely changed my life.
Algo que ella quiere que todos saquen es que este deporte de patinaje es algo muy lindo porque hay una comunidad ahí mismo y esa comunidad que ella conoció que en el patinaje también sale sobre el círculo de patinaje y algo personal. Cuando ella empezó a patinar, ella estaba muy deprimida y a cambio descubrió lo que es el roller derby y desde que lo ha podido descubrir le ha cambiado su vida, la ha hecho muy feliz y ella quiere eso para los demás también.
Yes, moving down here to New Mexico, it was completely fish out of water and Alaskan girl without the Alaska. And it was really hard to adjust. Even though I was in a state that, has so much Native people just everywhere. And I still felt so out of place, just being away from my family and the culture that I grew up in. And so being able to just find, again, that community just really saved me. And I really hope that it can be that for someone else.
Cuando ella se mudó a Albuquerque, a Nuevo México, ella se sentía bien sola, aunque ella es indígena nativa y hay gente indígena nativa en Albuquerque, igual no tenía algo, estaba solita ahí, se sentía muy deprimida, extrañaba a su familia y entrar conociendo al grupo de patinaje y esa comunidad le ha ayudado mucho y ella desea que toda la gente pueda por lo menos sacar eso de la comunidad de patinaje, que hay un sistema de soporte que es muy grande allí, que le hace a todos sentir queridos y ella está muy agradecida de eso.
That's all I have. Basi, thank you.
Awesome. I think there are a few of us can relate to that feeling of moving away from like a place you have your family, like your indigenous family at. Like I grew up in Michigan, so there's a lot of Native people, like Indian education after school, like all of that stuff. And then moving down to Florida, in my early 20s and everything, there's like no Native people here. Like I'm not saying there's none because there's the Seminole tribe and stuff, but like in the area of Tampa that I live in, like I know all of the Native people that live there. Like I know, everybody, and it's really weird. I can totally like understand where you're coming from, Shannon. It's like a really weird feeling. But
Se me está diciendo que ella también puede sentir lo que dice Shannon, porque ella viene de Michigan y ella se crió con bastante gente nativa, educación nativa después de la escuela, luego se movió a Florida, a Tampa, y en la área de Tampa donde ella vive son muy pocos. Ella conoce a toda la gente indígena ahí y entonces eso fue difícil para ella también.
all right. So we do have some few topics that we're going to be talking about today, and I know we also have some questions that'll be coming. So one of the things
Susan,
that I think
don't you need to introduce yourself?
Oh, Yeah.
Wow, I'm rude.
Sorry. My name is Susan Barrientos. I am I'm a Bolivian American, Muslim. There are very few of us too. There's only a couple of us Bolivians. I identify as Aymaran and Quechuan Indian. Um, I'm from Houston, Texas. I lived in Tampa for a year, and just recently, that's where I met Cinnamon. And I just recently moved back to Houston because home is home, and my mom's here, and I miss tamales really badly. And I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to be able to translate for everyone. When I was a kid growing up, my mom used to really like force me to learn Spanish after school, and I hated it. But as an adult now, I'm very appreciative and thankful and grateful to her because it is the one thing that keeps me close to my culture, and I really try to use it every day in helping a lot of people that sometimes the language is a barrier. And so if it's a small good thing I can do in this world, then I'm grateful. I'm willing to do it. So thank you. And I'm going to translate what I just said. Mi nombre es Susan Barrientos, soy de Bolivia. Bueno, soy de los Estados Unidos, mis papás son bolivianos. Me identifico como indígena aymara y quechua. Estoy muy agradecida de tener la oportunidad de traducir por ustedes. A mi español trato de hablar lo mejor que pueda, o si lo pateo, discúlpeme. Yeah, eso es todo.
Awesome.
Sí te ayudó, Susan. Muy bien.
Okay, so like I was saying before, I like rudely forgot about Susan. We have some topics we're just gonna kind of like dive in and talk about. And again, like we are gonna have the questions that we'll be able to answer. I think one of the important things that I really would like to talk about is the decolonizing skate spaces and decolonizing your idea of what an indigenous person is.
Hay bastantes tópicos que queremos hablar hoy y también poder responder a las preguntas que estaban preguntadas antes, pero hay algo que es muy importante para Sam que quiere hablar, se trata de el tópico de descolonización de lugares de patinaje y también hablar sobre qué es lo que hace una persona indígena o no.
So one of the things I want to talk about, and I know it's not like super duper important, but the access to skate communities on reservations, because reservations are not ran by the US government completely. They're not as like there's not as much access to them as there are in most, like cities throughout America. There's a couple of people out there who have been trying to build skate parks and a skate community within different indigenous communities, which I think is really awesome. Angie, I know that you're saying that you also have a park on your reservation that you skate at often. Do you guys just have like the one there, or?
Well, mostly I use the parking lot at the high school. It's not, I can't even call it just a high school because all the grades are in one school because it's so small.
Yeah.
But we do have like our reservation is very they like our tribe has kind of made our local economy stable within itself. So like most of the small towns in the rural Nebraska where I live are kind of like pass-through towns. They all look the same. They have a gas station. They have a small school and stuff. But our community has businesses. We have distribution centers. We have other companies we have a hospital that people like come to work. So it's a little bit different. Like we do have the potential to have maybe a larger skate park in the area. But like you had mentioned, it's on a reservation, so they're not funded by larger municipalities. A lot of the funding has to come from either grants or money from the tribe, donations that our tribal company has raised. Sometimes they do stuff like that, and we actually did have one, but it got it wasn't. I don't think it was as weatherproof. It kind of got ruined right away.
Mm,
So I think it's just
yeah.
like the type of park that needs to be built for that area and that type of weather.
Cinnamon quiere hablar sobre la importancia de tener accesos a parques de patinaje, especialmente en reservaciones. Como las reservaciones son fundadas por sí mismas, no son parte del el gobierno, no los funda muchas veces. Entonces, el dinero para construir estos patinajes, estos parques de patinaje, tienen que venir de las tribus mismas, de la comunidad o a veces de donaciones. Y ella quiere dar información y para que la gente sepa que estas reservaciones, esa gente indígena también necesitan acceso a parques de patinaje de nivel.
And I just wanted to add also, like, there's a need, like there is a need in the community for skate parks and skating spaces for young people. Me moving back, I'm like, there's a skate park. You guys need a skate park because I want to skate. But it's actually something that is a need in the community because, like, if you come from like a rural community, you know that like football, basketball is everything. So like being a kid that went to school on the reservation, I didn't play basketball, I didn't play football, I'm not a sports person, I'm not a competitive person, so none of that really interested me. But I did like to roller skate. I didn't. I would have to go to a roller skating rink that was about 20 miles away from the town that I lived in, and then just like having somebody to take just me like to the roller skating rink was hard. Um, so there is like that's still the case now. Like there's still no place to roller skate. And there's even less roller skating rinks open. But because everybody needs an outlet. The kids that play football have that as their outlet. People that do art have their artwork as their creative outlet. But what if you don't do any of those things?
Angie quería decir que ella piensa que es muy importante también que la gente, que los jóvenes tengan acceso. Ella cuando era chiquita y se crió en la reservación, para mucha gente solo había dos deportes, el fútbol y el básquetbol, pero si unos no hacen eso, ¿qué tipo de deporte pueden hacer? Ella tenía que manejar 20 millas o tener a alguien que la lleve a que ella vaya a un lugar de patinar solita. Y ella cree que es importante en esas comunidades especialmente tener un parque así de patinaje para la gente que no juega fútbol o que no juegan básquetbol, tener acceso a lo que les gusta, que sea arte, que sea patinaje, pero tener algo ahí para todos.
To build off of that, I completely agree. Growing up in not even rural Alaska, it's still like a pretty small town. And I remember we had a roller rink there for a super short period of time. Like I think I was like, I don't know, 9 or 10. And then it just disappeared. And, the skate parks there's 2 of them. And they're just horribly built, just cracks everywhere, super tiny. And they get a bad rap too. And I feel like with the suicide rate and depression rate up there, not even just in the Native community, but just the city and the area as a whole, I felt like it could have definitely been beneficial to just so many people that I know.
Shannon, ella también dice que lo que dice Angie es verdad, que la comunidad sí beneficia mucho del patinaje y de los parques de patinaje. Hay 2 donde ella vive ahora en Albuquerque. Is that where there's 2, right? In Albuquerque, you said?
No, in Fairbanks, my hometown in Alaska.
Oh, yeah. Disculpe. En Fairbanks dice que hay 2 y que son muy malos, son muy chiquitos, el concreto está lleno de llagas y entonces ella dice sería algo importante, especialmente con las suicidios que hay, la depresión que existe en esta comunidad, que sería un lugar muy importante para los jóvenes que hagan algo distinto, que es el patinaje.
Yeah, thankfully we're lucky here in Albuquerque and we have quite a few, but where my husband is from, just an hour and a half like north of Albuquerque on the reservation, they don't have anything up there. And even, his cousins, they go to school at like a school where they stay at, I'm not sure exactly what they'd call it, in a town. So like there's not even a school like in that area. And they could really use those resources for sure, even just at the school.
Sometimes people that get the misinterpretation that the money that the government, the small amount of money that the government gives Indigenous people is like, oh, all of these people are getting this money so they can, be rich and like they're getting our tax dollars and all of that stuff. I think people don't realize like how much that money has to go into the community just for like normal things. People don't realize there's communities in America, not a third world country, that look like third world countries that don't have access to just something as normal as freaking running water. And I think that there's just not enough awareness about, like, Shannon, how you're saying the depression and the suicide rate amongst Indigenous youth is insane. And I also feel like it would be a really great outlet for for them to be able to have this as another thing to do, to be able to go out and skate, because like you said, it saved you and it saved me. And look at where all of us are right now,
Cinnamon también me está diciendo que mucha gente piensa que cuando el dinero que viene a las comunidades indígenas, que eso solo ellos lo tienen, el bastante dinero, y dice, ese dinero que entra a esas comunidades son para cosas muy básicas, cosas que uno ni se da cuenta que en un país, que en una ciudad, en una comunidad en los Estados Unidos necesita. Por ejemplo, algo tan simple como agua corriente. Hay comunidades en los Estados Unidos que no tienen eso, entonces ese dinero que la gente, que el gobierno da, que es poco a las comunidades indígenas, no es suficiente para hacer algo como estos parques de patinaje, que sería algo muy, muy bueno para la comunidad, que le ayudan a ellos con la depresión, con todo eso.
Sí, justamente concuerdo, Cinnamon, en México nos pasa algo similar en cuestiones de comunidades, un ejemplo, que no tienen ni siquiera carretera, ni siquiera la oportunidad de tener un skatepark. Es una lucha un poco fuerte porque primero están las necesidades, después de las necesidades para la comunidad indígena está pues obviamente la educación, después de la educación dos deportes, que es fútbol o básquetbol o algo similar, y cuando llegas como proyecto de patinaje y quieres o sea, ayudar para que tengan más espacio estas como patinar, no hay un presupuesto. El gobierno te dice que el presupuesto no se puede usar porque podemos luchar contra un deporte como lo es el fútbol, que tiene años en México, en América Latina, en todo el mundo, comparado con la lucha que tiene el que no es un deporte nuevo aquí en México, nuevo de 10 años para arriba. Igual empezó por el roller derby, todas empezamos, la comunidad de CIB empezó por medio del roller también. Ahí empieza la lucha, no solo el roller derby, el las clases, entonces sí es una lucha continua, pero aquí estamos todas.
So Jude's saying she faces the same problem in Mexico. Forget about skate parks. They don't even have, like, some communities don't even have streets that you could skate on. And so, of course, especially in indigenous communities, when you're asking, there are other priorities, right? Obviously, education, health. And so when you come to them and you tell them, hey, like, I want to open a skate park, that's a new sport. It's relatively a new sport for them. It's probably less than 10 years old. She's like, the priority sport will be something like soccer, or basketball, something that that's established, that they kind of know about. So when you go to them and you say, hey, let's open a skate park, we need some space for skating or roller derby, they'll tell you there's no budget for that. There's no funds that they can allocate. They'd rather allocate them to other things. So she's like, I very much understand that struggle.
My turn. Like I said in the beginning, I think we can all agree we're all from different tribes, all different parts of, the Americas. And yeah, it's our struggle is different, but it's the same. So,
Aunque todos
so
somos de
I'm just
diferentes
gonna
tribus, diferentes partes de los Estados Unidos, la lucha es la misma, aunque sea distinta, pero todavía la misma.
So I think it'd be really cool if we just I know we kind of touched on it in our intros, but like what being an Indigenous skater like means to you. I would really I know some of you from social media, which just like so glad that y'all are here with me doing this thing. And yeah, so I guess I'll just start out a little bit with that.
Ella quiere empezar a hablar con todos sobre qué significa el patinaje para cada uno como una persona indígena y qué es siendo una patinadora indígena, qué significa.
So I think how a lot of people found me, and I know that definitely that's how like Shannon and Donovan found me, but I have this random like viral picture go around of me in my regalia and my roller skates because I had saw Naomi Glasses with her skateboard and in her like Danae like regalia and stuff, and I was just like, oh my god, I want to do that. So one of my friends and I, we had a World's Indigenous Peoples Day event, and we're like, let's do this because I already had my regalia out. I was dancing, and it changed my life, and it's been a really cool ride, so far. So, to translate.
Ella tuvo una foto viral donde ella vio, hay otra persona indígena que patina sobre el skateboard. Ella tomó una foto con todo su traje tradicional, la otra muchacha es del tribodine y ella vio eso y ella dijo, sabes que se ve súper chévere, yo quiero tratar, y como ella fue a un evento donde ella bailó y ella estaba vestida con su traje tradicional indígena, ella decidió con su amiga tomar unas fotos y así es como su foto se hizo viral sobre el internet y la otra gente pudo ir y encontrarla.
So that kind of got it to a point where I started going like, wow, I can change the way people see Indigenous people. I think that sometimes people think that we're still like cowboys and Indians, and we still, I had kids ask me in grade school if I lived in a teepee and stuff. I'm like, my people didn't even live in a teepee. Like, let's go. But anyways, so yeah, it was just sorry, I got off topic there. Got a little deadly real quick. And yeah, so it just it made me realize how much people don't realize the difference between what a modern day Indigenous person is and what a person who was colonized and lived in the past like had to do and to survive. And I think as an Indigenous skater, I will live loudly and proudly for the people that couldn't do that. And I think that at this point in my life, that's where I'm at. I'm gonna mesh my love of skating and who I am as my identity and just go for it. I mean, again, look at us. Look what we're doing.
Cinnamon dice que cuando ella vio que su foto se hizo viral y ella pudo agarrar una audiencia más grande, ella dijo que ella podía usar esa plataforma como una forma de cambiar cómo gente ve a las personas indígenas. Cuando ella era niña, a veces había gente que le preguntaban todavía que si ella vivía en un tipi o algo y que es otra idea, que su tribu de ella ni vivían así. Entonces ella dijo, como patinadora ahora puedo usar mi identidad, quién soy, para enseñar cómo ella puede vivir como una persona indígena. Ella puede ser orgullosa de cómo es y puede combinar su amor a su cultura y su amor al patinaje en uno. Y puede vivir, como ella dijo, fuerte, auténtica y todo sí misma.
So I could continue to keep talking about this because this is like the only other thing I talk about in my life is just like how much I want to, decolonize the skate space and everything. And I think I talk very passionately about it. So I'll move it on to anybody who wants to go next. Just do your little
Bean talk.
So I guess for me, it's pretty similar to Cinnamon. You know, I realized as a Native Hawaiian, when I first got into roller skating that I had the opportunity to kind of, I guess, yeah, like shape and change the way people view, like, what does a Hawaiian skater look like? Like what, I guess that modern view of like who Hawaiians are as people, right? Because like growing up too, when I would go away to other like sports events on like the continent or the Americas, um, people would ask me like, "Oh, so do you guys like ride dolphins to school? Like, do you guys have like grass, like wear grass skirts and like coconut bras?" And it's just like, you know, it's very, I realized quickly that mm, Hawaiian history wasn't being taught, and that people didn't really, I guess, have the right tools or maybe even like, you know, see people, like see modern Hawaiians and see like who we are today. And so I guess like for me as an Indigenous skater, I do feel like this sense of responsibility, I guess, to kind of um mesh like what I like to do, roller skating, and who I am as a Hawaiian, and kind of, you know, bring that, however that looks like. I'm not even sure, honestly. I'm just, you know, trying to do me. But um, yeah, and you know, hopefully bring that to the community, get more Hawaiian skating. I feel like that can only be a good thing for our community. Unfortunately, we have a high rate of incarcerations for Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders. And you know, it's just another outlet, like something for you know, people to do. And so I feel like it can only be a benefit to our community.
Lo mismo para Vin, ella dijo que cuando ella se crió de joven sorry, cuando ella se crió
I
y
love
de
it.
joven, ella, cuando ella iba a otros partes de los Estados Unidos, la gente igual no sabían qué es una persona hawaiana. Ellos decían, oh, tú vas a la escuela yendo con delfines o te pones faldas de paso y sostenes de coconut, como se dice, cocos. Entonces ella dijo, ella quiere cambiar esa imagen también. ¿Qué es una patinadora indígena hawaiana? En cómo se ve eso. Entonces ella quiere usar esa plataforma de patinaje para explicar eso, para cambiar ideas. Y ella cree que también es muy importante porque hay una mayoría de gente hawaiana y que están en la cárcel, y ella cree que si podrían patinar o tener ese acceso a ese deporte, a esos lugares, podría cambiar eso.
Just to add really quick, in the beginning of this adventure, Vin actually messaged me and was like, "Are you sure you want me to be a part of this?" And I was like, "Yeah, like you're a Native Hawaiian. Your people." Sorry, I just threw that out there. But you're Native Hawaiian. Your people were colonized just like my people, your people, just like they were colonized. So it's like, of course, you know, you were forced and assimilated into this America. Um, you know, your country was turned into a freaking state, and you know, to get into all of the craps that's going on with that right now with tourism, if you go to Hawaii, please don't. Um, and yeah, so like just to touch on that, like I'm so that glad that you're here because you are a part of this indigenous skate community.
Seremen estaba diciendo que en el comienzo ella se dudaba que si ella tenía una voz en esta plataforma, no sabía, y Seremen le dijo, sí, tú eres una persona indígena también, tu país ha sido colonizado, tu gente, la cultura robada, entonces sí, tú tienes una voz aquí y mereces estar en esta plataforma.
All right, Angie. Oh,
Y a mí me gustaría agregar algo respecto a lo que las compañeras nos dijeron. Y yo creo que como indígena, mexicana, que vivimos también acá, y latinoamericana, habla, es una manera de empoderar. Hacemos en patines. Además de empoderar, no solamente nos empoderamos a nosotras, sino que empoderamos a más comunidad. Entonces, seguir compartiendo, crecer como patinadores.
Yeah, she says it's important because skating, not only is it does it empower amongst themselves, let's say like her community, her tribal people within themselves, but then it also empowers you and it empowers other tribes, and that's how we connect, right? Regardless of that we're not the same tribe, they see one tribe, feeling empowered and spreading that positivity, and then the other one wants to kind of jump on. So it uplifts everyone.
Angie, you can go ahead if you have anything to say about what you think it is to be an Indigenous skater or how it makes you feel.
Oh, sorry, my mute. I couldn't unmute myself. I'm not, well, I just considered myself a skater. Like I didn't really think of my indigenousness as like something that influenced my skating, but I like now that I've been doing it for so long and that the community has grown so much that it is important to have people that look like me, because I was a kid that didn't have anybody that looked like me. And even like there wasn't social media but even like at the roller skating rink, there was nobody that looked like me, and nobody would talk to me and nobody would skate with me. And like people looked at me weird, like, how did you get here? Who taught you how to roller skate? So it's it has definitely transformed since back then. But in a way it hasn't, because there's still not that access to the community that I grew up in. There's still no access to skate parks or skating spaces. So I think it is important that I do, make myself visible to my community.
Angie no empezó en el comienzo a pensar, a identificarse realmente como una patinadora indígena. Ella siempre era indígena, pero como la comunidad ha crecido, como ahora existe, dice que ella antes, en esa época, no existía social media, no existía así el internet donde uno podía ver, ella iba a patinar y no había nadie que se parecía a ella, no había nadie que hablaba como ella, entonces decía, se sentía sola y única, pero ahora como está creciendo y como todavía hay una necesidad, especialmente en comunidades rurales, indígenas, para este tipo de patinaje, de deporte. Ella cree que es importante ahora demostrar más de lo que es ella como una persona indígena y una patinadora también.
I guess just to add a little bit about what Angie was saying, the whole aspect of not seeing people like yourselves growing up, and the internet has made that so much. I mean, again, look at us. But I'm just so happy. This is just like a great group of people. I'm just gonna keep saying, look at us. Anyways, but I think as people that want to be allies to Indigenous people, just this is just like a little side note because it just reminded me of that. But when we get excited about seeing someone that looks like us, like you just don't understand that feeling. And so, or for me recently, it was like over the last year or so, I've been fighting. Like one of the things I like focus a lot about is like land acknowledgement and whose land you're on. And seeing people do more land acknowledgements and stuff. Like I was so excited to see that happen. I think at the Macy's Day Parade, like last Thanksgiving was they had a land acknowledgement or something, and I was like super jazzed about it. And then I remember people like coming in and saying like, oh, this should have been happening a long time ago. But it's like, at least this is happening now. At least this is happening now. And at least we're being able to see people like each other in these skate spaces. Sorry if that was a lot, Susan.
No, I'm going to paraphrase what you said. Ella dice que la razón, uno se siente muy entusiasmada de ver personas indígenas patinando, porque sí, es verdad, antes no se veía, no se existía, y entonces no solo eso, pero algo que Cinnamon está viendo recientemente es no solo identificación de gente indígena, pero también el respeto e identificar sobre qué tierra que uno está patinando. Y entonces eso es muy importante porque más recientemente se ve eso, que gente está diciendo, bueno, estamos patinando sobre esta tierra indígena de este pueblo, de esta tribu. Entonces es algo muy importante y quizás sí es algo que han debido de hablar de eso más antes, pero el punto es que es una conversación que está tomando en tema ahora y por lo menos estamos hablando de eso ahora, de en qué tierra estamos patinando y quiénes somos como indígenas en esta plataforma, en este espacio.
Whoever is next wants to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sí. Quería agregar algo que de todo este tema que estamos hablando de cómo descolonizar e indigenizar los espacios, los skate parks, las calles, pues justamente es el mensaje es sobre lo que CIB Cancún trabaja, usar los espacios públicos, usar las calles, patinar las calles. Si no hay skate parks, busquen el skate park, consigan el skate park en donde viven. En español se dice incidir, Susan, que es trabajar en el proyecto hasta conseguirlo, seguir trabajando. Nosotros como comunidad de skate, roller skate, trabajamos con gobierno en el aspecto de pedir los espacios, no dejarlos, recuperarlos. Incluso todo este trabajo nos ha llevado a compartirlo con otras comunidades, el ver que sí funciona para nosotras como crew y ver otras mexicanas, otros mexicanos nos ven y quieren hacer lo mismo. Hace poco se abrió una comunidad en Michoacán, en México, que se motivó bastante en vernos. También estuvimos en otra comunidad a 3 horas de aquí, de Cancún, y ya están pidiendo espacios para patinar. Entonces, usemos los espacios son nuestros. Es todo, Susan.
So that's a big thing with CIB Cancun is they promote finding a space, taking back a space wherever you can. They skate in parks, they skate in streets. They're very proactive as far as talking to the government and saying, hey, this is what we need. We want to take this back for us. And their crew is actually inspiring other crews. There's a group in Michoacán, in Mexico, that just recently also is starting to ask for skate parks, starting to ask for a place for them, for the people, and trying to show the government that, hey, this benefits us, this benefits our youth, so it benefits the country as a whole.
So, Cinnamon, can you ask me the question again?
Of course. It's just like an overview. I just want to know what y'all are feeling. Like, how do you feel, or how would you describe yourself as an Indigenous skater, and what being an Indigenous skater means to you?
So, I think that actually a lot of it has to do with you and when I saw your post. Because I think that it just made me realize that I don't have to try to compartmentalize who I am for social media, for anything, and especially just in my own mind, just getting out of that colonized mindset. And it really lit the fire under my butt for getting back into some of my traditional ways, such as beading. Go ahead, Susan.
Shannon, ella fue inspirada por Cinnamon, que aprendió que no tenía que separar quién es ella, cuál es su identificación como indígena. No tenía que separarse, que ella podía presentarse como una sola, ella misma, y tener todo aspecto de su vida con hacer con ese personaje. Y le ha ayudado mucho hasta a tocar con sus raíces, por ejemplo, en hacer su artesanía que ella hace ahora.
Because growing up, all of the time that I spent in my culture doing cultural things with my people, it was always in the village, like where my parents came from. But I didn't live there. And so when I came back home, I had this, I don't know, like a completely different life because we didn't really practice those things in the city. Like we would be able to go to events and, you know, see dancing and art there, but it wasn't really practiced in, you know, in a personal manner. And so I think from a very young age, you know, it was just, again, compartmentalized and not as a part of like who I was. So being able to see somebody embrace skating and the culture at the same time was just mind blowing because, again, you don't see those things. You don't see people do those things. You don't see people like us do those things. And so I appreciate your courage for just doing you and inspiring me to do me.
Como dice Shannon, okay, como
No,
dice
go ahead,
Shannon,
Susan.
ella, thank you, cuando era ella niña, la artesanía que hacía, su identidad indígena y la otra identidad que ella tenía eran separados. Tenía un lugar y un tiempo donde se podía hacer sus cosas indígenas y otro, o eso tenía su lugar y su tiempo. Pero viendo a Shannon cómo ella pudo concuasar las dos cosas, como podía vivir como patinadora y vivir y ser indígena, identificarse, todo en uno, la ha inspirado mucho a ella a querer vivir así.
And that kind of like brings us back to the whole almost topic of this conversation of colonization and what does that look like in the different communities. And I feel like just in my own, the way that I grew up, it was just a slightly different version where, you know, the colonization happened a lot longer after the people in the mainland US were colonized. And so just having that different perspective of privilege almost that my people weren't discovered until, you know, a couple hundred years later. And just the different structure that my villages, actually just Alaska as a whole, is so different from just down here with the reservations, and just a completely different, I guess, impact of colonization. Sorry, that probably didn't make any sense.
¿No? Entonces Shannon está diciendo que también me ha sido difícil porque para ella colonización en su país, en Alaska, digo, en su estado de Alaska, se ve distinto a lo que se ve como las reservaciones en los otros países de los Estados Unidos. Entonces ella pudo ver, está aprendiendo cómo ver esa distinción y cómo poder, ahora, por ejemplo, usar otra vuelta su identificación indígena con lo demás de que es su personaje.
So I do want to remind people that you can totally leave us a question in the live chat if you have anything to ask us, or you know, whatever you want to say. Go ahead. But I'll add a little bit onto what Shannon was saying about being so stuck inside your mind as a like, especially as like an Indigenous, I think we can all relate to that, being the fact that we're all Indigenous women, is that we want to be a part of this Eurocentric like beauty that we see plastered everywhere, you know?
Okay, ya, pero me estaba diciendo que sí, eso es algo sobre hablar, porque todos, ¿qué es? ¿Cómo se ve una persona indígena? Todos tenemos una idea de esto eurocéntrico, de qué es la belleza, ¿verdad? Eurocéntrica. Entonces, esto ahora estamos hablando de cómo cambiar esa imagen, esa identificación que hay, que es en este mundo de patinaje como una persona indígena.
So I think that immediately, you know, starts it in our brains, that like, I don't wanna do anything with my culture because it's weird, you know? Like, I can just, like, hear my, like, my younger self saying it. But I grew up a lot. I went to powwows. I competition danced. I do jingle dress and fancy shawl. I was a pageant princess on, like, Native American pageants and stuff. So, like, I did that, like, all growing up. But I got to the point where I was like, I don't wanna do this because people think I'm weird, or I think that this is not what, you know, a normal girl my age should be doing. So I think we do get stuck in ourselves, and we think we need to, adhere to these standards and stuff, and I think now, I mean, I'm 29, I'm almost 30 years old, I'm at the point where I'm gonna live how I want to. I'm going to preach to people as much as I can about Indigenous people and, colonization, because unfortunately, in our our uh, our time on this earth, the time we'll all be alive, colonization will not be eradicated. It's here, and it's so it's so engraved and rooted in our systems here in America, where most of the Indigenous people live, that it's going to be a struggle to try to tear that apart. But I will tear at it with all I have until I can't tear at it anymore. And I think that can make people uncomfortable. And so yeah, just for everybody out there, allies, like, challenge yourselves and tear down the colonization in your mind. You know, if you have a brown person talking to you about something being disrespectful or something being inappropriate to talk about like Native people that way, like, listen to them, because my ancestors couldn't say that without getting killed or assimilated into this culture that wasn't their culture.
And so, like, I guess something similar is that I remember growing up, it was not, I guess it wasn't as well known a fact, or you just, as a Hawaiian, you were looked at as radical or kind of like crazy if you talked about the illegal overthrow of Hawaii. And it's like, just looking back on it now, it's like I don't understand how. I'm glad it's changed, obviously. I'm glad that people know that, this is history. We can't change, the facts of what has happened. And it's not viewed as, like, oh, you're just like an extremist or like that's such a radical way of thinking. It's like, no, like this is Hawaiian history. And like for me as a Hawaiian to, say, yes, this, like, you need to learn about the overthrow, you need to learn about the illegal annexation. We're still illegally occupied. Like, you should know that. Like, this is not my opinion. It's just factual, And I feel like yeah, I'm glad that it's definitely changed. But just looking back on that, like when I was younger, it's like, I'm so glad that, we've kind of made that progression, even though colonization is so, rooted and ingrained in people that, it's possible to change. I feel like that's the point of it, right?
Selmen estaba diciendo antes que es importante también hablar sobre este aspecto de colonización y ser indígena, porque había una época donde antes su gente no tenía voz, no podían decir, oye, esto es un insulto, o esto no es justo. Entonces dice, si uno quiere ayudar a la gente indígena, cuando uno ve a una persona indígena diciendo, esto es lo que tiene que cambiar, o queremos que los hables así, en este modo, o esto es un insulto, esto es derogatorio, que escuches a esas personas. Dice, estoy cumpliendo mis 30 años y ya quiero sentir que tengo una voz, ya no me importa que antes, como cuando era niña, se sentía a veces avergonzada de enseñar su cultura cuando era chica, pero dice, ahora como soy mayor, ahora sí quiero vivir mi cultura, ser indígena y serlo fuerte, que todo el mundo sepa. Luego vi abajo, ella también dijo, creyéndose en Hawái, antes no podías hablar tampoco, era ilegal hablar sobre la colonización de la isla de Hawái, de hablar sobre cómo fue conectado a los Estados Unidos como un estado ilegalmente y colonizado ilegalmente. Antes era contra la ley, era considerado algo radical, revolucionario hablar así, pero ahora dice, estoy muy agradecida que ese punto de vista ha cambiado, que ahora podemos tener esas conversaciones, esa educación a la gente sobre estos temas.
All right, we're gonna be like wrapping up a little bit soon, so I didn't know if we want to go around and kind of just any last thoughts or anything you want to get out into the community right now while we are so graciously given this platform by CIB. So
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, and please forgive me for interrupting, but as far as for Bolivians, our identity, our native identity is, we didn't become full citizens until 1978. So we grew up, the indigenous people, the Aymara and the Quechuan, they didn't have the right to vote until 1978. They weren't considered full citizens in my country. And so growing up, we were shamed into identifying as indigenous. I mean, even to this day, I fight with my parents all the time because they grew up with a great sense of shame of talking about how native you are. It was considered something like, it was better to be Spanish and like this kind of mentality. So I personally, I love that I'm able to just share this space with you guys, and to promote that and educate the younger Bolivian generation about how it's something beautiful. We need to recapture our roots, protect our ancestral lands, and regain our language and our oral history. So thank you very much.
I really appreciate you saying that and stuff. And you're part of this as much as everyone else. I know you're here translating, but you're an Indigenous Bolivian person. What Indigenous Skate Alliance is, it's not just for Native Americans. This is for Indigenous people from all over the world. That's what I want. That's what I want in the Indigenous Skate Alliance to be. I want it to be a safe spot and a safe place for people from all over the world who have been, whose people have been assimilated, have been colonized through mostly white supremacy. And I want them to be able to have a safe space because there's plenty of pages like, that showcase these, cis white women all the time. And we're like, we need a place for us, I will never fit into the mold of a cis white woman. Like I'm I'm 5 foot. Like it's never gonna happen. Yeah, like we're gonna let her know native nose gang. Anyways, yeah, sorry, just to throw that in. Shannon, you can go ahead whenever she's done translating. Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, translate. Lo que sí, yo empecé a decir que sí, yo me considero una persona indígena y estoy muy agradecida de aquí de tener esta voz porque si uno sabe de Bolivia, la gente indígena de Bolivia no estaban considerados ni ciudadanos hasta 1978 y uno se crió con mucha, era lo que le llaman idiosincrasia, que es no quieren identificarse como gente indígena, es como no existía ese orgullo. Entonces yo estoy muy orgullosa por tener esa voz y quizás inspirar a otra gente de mi país, de Bolivia, a que sean que sean orgullosos de quienes son, de sus raíces indígenas, para recapturar la cultura, el lenguaje, los costumbres nativos con cual debemos de todavía agarrarnos y ajustarnos siempre al corazón. Y después Cinnamon, ella dijo, sí, eso es el punto del Indian Skate Alliance, que no solo es para tribus nativos en los Norteamérica, que son para toda la gente indígena, para tener esa voz. ¿Por qué? Porque en este mundo de patinaje hay bastante de gente blanca que patina, y nosotros no somos blancos, nosotros somos indígenas y tenemos que ser orgullosos de ser indígenas.
Igual, dentro de todo esto, pues también estoy muy agradecida. Estamos como comunidad latinoamericana que no se pueda escuchar. Susan, no pudiéramos hacer esto y que más comunidad latinoamericana habla hispana nos escuche sin tu voz, Susan. Entonces, qué bien, muchas gracias por dejar también que yo pueda usar mi lengua nativa, que es el español.
And Jude and Jessica is saying thank you so much also for giving us this platform, because it also includes the Latin American community, and this is an opportunity for them to be a part of this group, to be a part of this panel, and to hear and be a part of this community as well. And she's very grateful that she was allowed to be able to speak in her native tongue. That way she can communicate, and the other people in the community can hear that as well. She's thankful to be here. Shannon?
I like how everybody's pointing in that direction. I just wanted to say that it's just wonderful to hear everybody else and how they are continuing to fight against just the colonized mindset and the communities that we grew up in that just suppressed us. And just it's wonderful to see, because I grew up in a different lifestyle, just super conservative, and even that, which I'm thankful for, because I got to be shielded from a lot. But at the same time, I still saw, that underlying racism and that stereotyping of Native Americans, even in Fairbanks. And, they were always looked down on, and the person that was on the street drunk, getting into trouble and causing trouble. And even growing up, I would hear remarks of people that I was supposed to look up to, and just hear them make remarks that even at that age I found funny, because I'm like, oh yeah, we're just making fun of natives. Cool. And it's so crazy to experience that at such a young age and think it's normal. And so, be that voice that talk some sense. Don't be afraid to, stand up for others and for yourself. And don't be afraid to keep on learning new things. Even as a 31-year-old, I just learned how to do something from my aunt. And, it's just, you have to have that drive yourself to keep on learning your own culture and being the person to further it and pass it on. Hopefully, that's how we keep us alive.
Shannon está diciendo que se alegra mucho de escuchar, de ver este panel de gente que están aceptando su cultura y hablando sobre su cultura indígena. En donde ella se crió, también hablaban muy mal de la gente nativa, de la gente indígena, tanto que cuando ella era chiquita era considerado normal para ella, y eso nunca debía ser. Entonces ahora ella dice que la gente que sean esa voz, que se empoderen de decir, de aprender más de su cultura indígena, de aceptar, de ser una voz y educar a la gente.
I just wanted to add really quick, because I know we're about to wrap up. Today is the anniversary of the Sand Creek Massacre. It's was one of the I think it was like 1846 or something. It was like, almost 200 years ago that like a bunch of indigenous people were murdered by the US government. So I just wanted to put that out there. Just think about that. If you don't know what the Sand Creek Massacre is, go ahead and look it up. And yeah, just wanted to pay some respects to those people that had, been so wrongfully murdered on this day that we are doing this little panel thing.
También quería decir a la gente que hoy es el aniversario de Sand Creek Massacre, donde mucha gente nativa perdieron sus vidas. Y entonces quería dar un momento para dar respeto a la gente que falleció en ese masacre hoy, hace hartos años.
Sorry, I'll be really quick so that Angie can wrap this up. But I just wanted to mention there's two kind of like unique skate parks that we have on Hawaii Island, which is also known as the Big Island. Root Skate Park is kind of like the community DIY project skate park. So they did get some like grants and some money from the county, but they haven't recently. And so basically it's totally like community funded now and community run, and they even have like a community garden, but they are still like needing some support. So if you are able to or have the capacity to like help in that sense, I definitely would appreciate that. I know that our community would appreciate that. And then the second one is Volcano Skate Park, which is currently closed due to it being unsafe from, the disregard by the county, unfortunately, not upkeeping it and stuff. And so we might need community involvement and action in the future. So Root Skate Park and Volcano Skate Park. Thank you.
Y dice que hay dos parques de patinaje en Hawái, en la isla principal. Uno es Root Skate Park, que es un parque de patinaje hecho por la comunidad con dinero que ha sido recaudado por diferentes organizaciones y por la comunidad, y hasta hay un jardín de la comunidad. Entonces, si uno quiere donar o ayudar en ese aspecto de ese parque, sí, sería muy lindo. También hay otro parque que se llama Volcano State Park, que ha estado cerrado porque el gobierno no han podido realmente cuidar ese parque. Entonces, quizás en el futuro sí va a haber necesidad para recaudar fondos quizás de la comunidad para volver a abrirlo. Entonces, si uno quiere ayudar, ella estaría muy agradecida.
So I just wanted to thank everybody again for watching this, for being a part of it, for translating. And yeah, I can't wait to see what the future holds for us as, Indigenous skaters. And again, I really appreciate CIB and Hal and for giving us this platform. All of our Instagram handles are right underneath us. If you have any further questions that might have not been asked or responded to in this, go ahead and reach out to us. I know I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about my native culture, about skating, anything. So yeah.
We're all trying to point it. Pero me dice muchísimas gracias, está muy agradecida a CIB, a Hal, para darnos esta oportunidad de hablar de quiénes somos, qué significa ser indígena y también dar una voz a nuestra comunidad. Para la gente de allá, y si uno tiene preguntas, por favor, pueden siempre, ella dice que ella está muy feliz de hablar. Si tienen cualquier pregunta, puede ver su Instagram handle. Todos los Instagram handles de todas nosotras estamos ahí en la página de CIB y también en los debajo de nuestros nombres ahorita.
Of course, at the end of it. I guess we're going to be wrapping up here, but also I just want to add really quickly, our regalia is not a costume. white sage is endangered in the United States. Please don't use it if you're not Indigenous. 3, don't be a dick. Talk to us if you have questions about Indigenous things, and don't just try to make something up or look it up and you have no idea what you're talking about and then try to talk to us. Listen to Indigenous people on Indigenous Peoples Matter. Also, there will be no Black liberation without Indigenous sovereignty.
And buy Native art.
Yes, Native art, not Native inspired art. There's a difference.
Bien seguir reconociendo a la comunidad de habla hispana, que no tenemos esta conexión a lo mejor con el inglés, que es un idioma que para mucha comunidad mexicana es difícil trabajar con grupos como CIB, pero el incluirnos nos abre la puerta. Mil gracias. No olvidemos que resistimos y persistimos juntos.
She's saying, Jessica is saying, thank you also for giving us the opportunity to take part in this. It's very hard. As a Latin American, we feel included. It might be the time to communicate, but the fact that we were able to come on here to speak our language is it's wonderful. It brings us together. And she said, remember that together, ¿qué es lo último que dijiste?
Resistir
¿Juntos?
y persistir. Juntos.
Yeah,
Juntas, juntos,
resist.
junte. All of us.
Yes. Resist and be together. That's how we persevere. And we have the resistance and perseverance together. And that is both in all forms. He, she, they, them, together.
We're obviously a bunch of badass ladies that came from a line of very badass other Indigenous ladies, because we wouldn't be here right now because they're resilient, just like us.
Okay.
And now we're just going to laugh until the video ends.
Yeah. Estamos diciendo esto no como una forma de insulto, pero para nosotros significa soporte. Por si acaso a la gente de Latinoamérica no estamos insultando a nadie. I basically said we're not insulting anybody by doing this. We discussed earlier that this means support, so please do not be offended.
I know. I bet this and this probably looked so weird, like constantly, but I don't know. All right. Thanks, guys, so much. Have a good night. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas.